Namaskar. Welcome to another edition of Navimash podcast. So again, we are back with Academic Man, our favorite guest. So today we are going to tackle a very boring and academic thing. Okay, but we'll try to make it fun and interesting for the audience itself. So today we're going to talk about the power of sociology.
Yes.
And most people actually do not understand the importance of sociology, its significance in terms of the impact it has on our lives, our societies in general. So we'll try to demystify it for the audience first on that, and then we will also talk about the primary prominent personalities, academics who have shaped sociology in the modern context, and how actually the sociology that we see today being practiced in academia, how it's actually affecting our lives, our daily lives, our families' lives, our jobs. Everything is shaped or somewhere interacted by sociology itself and people who practice it. So, namaste, academic man.
Namaste and good evening. चलो शुरू करते हैं.
Yes, so you start with your opening statement, okay,
Yeah,
and then we will carry forward.
yeah. So this is actually more of a clarification type of a podcast that we're gonna do. The why is this necessary? Because I believe that the power of academia is often not understood or completely fathomed by people who are not in liberal arts or humanities or these kind of social science backgrounds. Um, the world that people like you live in, people who are professional, high skilled professionals in different, uh, industries, your world is very different from the world in which most people actually live. Okay. Most people are living in a world created based on certain perceptions, okay, including I'm saying even people like you and many others who are high skilled professionals. But sometimes it's very easy for a technology guy or a medical science person or even management STEM people, right? STEM people, it's easy for them to think of solutions because their disciplines are actually solutions oriented disciplines, whereas social science is actually a problem oriented discipline. There is a big fundamental difference between what a person like you are supposed to do and what a person like I am supposed to do. Okay, a person like me is supposed to find problems, whereas you are given a problem and told that this is, I want a solution for this, right? So fundamentally our thought processes are very different. So what STEM people fail to understand is that there is a whole section of people, and these are often very elite people also. That's where this is more problematic. These elites are basically controlling the perception of the masses. The masses, I mean, unfortunately, do not have always the capability to think critically. They operate based on nuanced, they operate based not on nuanced perceptions, they operate based on skewed data that is given to them. So today, like CSK talks about a lot about, how, let's say, a Dalit man and a Brahmin have a fight in Uttar Pradesh. Maybe it is not regarding caste, maybe it's regarding some criminal activity, but the newspaper will say Brahmin man kills Dalit man. Okay, that kind of victimhood based thinking, that kind of propagandist thinking, that is done in the social sciences and the humanities, by the humanities people. Their job is to divert your attention onto the problems and make you think that your society is a problematic place and therefore it needs to be improved. Okay, and improved on certain terms, like through economic redistribution and stuff like that. Okay, or whatever, destroy, smash Brahmanical patriarchy, that kind of thing. But again, all of these are based on perceptions created by some people. But my job today, my desire today is not to talk about how we can counter these perceptions. That is not the majority of the talk. I want to give an account of how such perceptions have been created to destroy, Indic thought processes, to destroy the cultural unity of India. Okay, and this has been done for the longest time, which is why you will see that the kind of things that CSK says or you say, they are not always accepted by majority of people, because the majority of people are still in that programming, that matrix programming, which is created by social scientists and sociologists and all these people, even 100 years, 150 years ago. That is still dominating even today. So my intention is to kind of uncover that domination, why, how that domination worked and all that.
Okay, so I think you need to demystify one thing for all of us, and that is we are mentioning that it's a perception. Okay,
Yeah.
why it's a perception, not a reality?
Because that's the whole game, really. Because what we think of as, let's get to our favorite topic, caste. Okay. So if 90%, 99% people think that caste is a religious creation. Okay. Very few people will agree that caste is not a religious creation, but it is a product of political economy. Okay, it is a product of particular kinds of kind of economic and political configurations that were there in pre-modern and modern India, which have shaped the caste hierarchies, and this is not unique to India. These basic two things are the reality based on historical evidence, based on sociological evidence, anthropological evidence. All these, there are studies to support what I'm saying. But even after these studies came around, the original perception that was there among Europeans primarily, that caste is a religious thing. Okay, and it is, and Manusmriti is like a Bible from which people learn caste, and then they discriminate. The upper caste discriminate against the lower caste, and the lower caste take it willingly. The lower caste never protest. This kind of very static view of Indian society is never there in reality. That's the whole problem with these kind of things. But it was so cleverly created and done that, and through so much academic work, that it is still the dominant view even among Hindus. Forget the rest of the world. Rest of the world to uses caste as a stick to beat Hindus. So whenever, whether it's a right-wing guy like Tucker Carlson, or left-wing commentators, or even comedians, like I was watching Vivek Ramaswamy's interview on Flagrant, which is run by Andrew Schultz. He's a comedian. So he started asking Vivek Ramaswamy about his caste. Okay. So, matlab, Indian is equal to caste. But when the Japanese guys come, they never say Japan is equal to caste. Right? They don't ask Japanese people, what is your caste? Are you a Burakumin or not? Okay. They always ask us, what is our caste? Why? Although when you and I are talking, we're not talking in terms of our caste. We're just having a conversation. Right? When not we in Bengal, but when people in Uttar Pradesh have elected Mayawati as chief minister, then these people say all different other kinds of things. But that's the whole reality, that that caste is just a political tool. It was never the basis of our entire identity. But the perception of 150, 200 years that has been created in the minds of everyone, including Hindus, through NCRT textbooks, through all kinds of things, okay, that these sources have embedded these problematic perceptions in our mind, and as a result, even Hindus themselves, who are losing because of this idea, they themselves still believe that caste is sanctioned by Brahmins and everyone accepts it. Like when a Brahmin says, okay, I am the highest caste, all of us who are non-Brahmins will say, you are right. You are absolutely right. Why are you right? Because the Manusmriti said it. None of us have read the Manusmriti, but we agree with everything. And the Brahmins are doing untouchability all the time. This kind of perception is there. And when a Brahmin is born, when a Dalit is born, when whoever other caste is born, our parents tell us ki हाँ बेटा तुमको यही काम करना पड़ेगा. Whatever is your caste, you have to do that work. Okay. So that this is what the West thinks of us. That is why in California there has to be a movement by the parents who had to go against a school textbook where it showed that, you know what they did in California. They actually told the kids, Indian Hindu kids, to dress up in different castes, and they said that okay, this is your birth based occupation. That is how Indian caste system works in their minds. Okay, that is how racist and stereotyped these people are. But we are not helping it either. That is the main problem. That we have now, we have the technology, we have the we know English, we are one of the fastest growing economies, but we don't have the power to offset this. When Japan was one of the 3 countries which were fascist in the pre-war era, pre-World War II era. Now, right after Japan was occupied by the US and then, they became a whatever democracy and all that, Japan completely transformed its identity. Nobody sees a Japanese person right now and says, "Are tumhara dadu to wo the. Your granddad worked for Hitler." Nobody says that, right? They did so much soft power stuff. They invested so much in movies and films and books and academia, that now people ask Japanese people, how are you so efficient and this and that, but nobody talks about the caste system that was there in Japan, which was much more oppressive sometimes than the Indian caste system. वैसे तो caste system बोल के कुछ है ही नहीं इंडिया में, but whatever hierarchies we had, the Japanese hierarchies were even worse in many ways and more racialized than us. But nobody talks about that because Japan invested crores and crores and crores of dollars on building the perception. The same with Islam. You can say whatever you want about them, but they fund Al Jazeera. They fund academics in Harvard and Yale and all these places who create the perception that Dubai and all these places are heaven. They are the greatest places in the world. Nobody talks about the human rights issues in those in the Middle East. The human rights issues in the Middle East are actually focused around Israel. But even they invested crores of rupees, crores of dollars on Holocaust films like Schindler's List and Holocaust-based literature. Right? It is, except us, everyone spends crores on academia. And why do they? Because they create perceptions. Japan created a perception that Japanese form of management and manufacturing was the most superior. Although they did not talk about the suicides, later on the stuff came about. But in Japan, unaliving oneself is fairly common in the workplace because Japanese, work culture is very toxic. That is the cost of having a very overtly high performance work culture there. and their society is now well below replacement rate. So these problems are coming around, but Japan still wins the soft power war. When a Japanese movie is released in India, Gen Z kids and many other young people, they go and watch Japanese movies. Okay, they don't think that Japan ka ye nahi dekhenge because it's crap. Nobody thinks like that. So all of this is the result of investment in fiction writing, basically. Essentially, you create a perception. The perception is made stronger when you make powerful people say it. Like, so let's say your family members say you are a great person. I mean, you might be, but that's not important. Your family is bound to say that you're a great person. But let's say the CEO of your company says you're a great person, then that has a very different level of power. So that is why capturing elite academic institutions, not just capturing means putting your people there, producing actual research, producing work is absolutely necessary to put forth your vision for the country, for your people, for your religion, all that. So yes,
Okay,
that is the answer to your question,
understood.
I
So
think.
it's, yeah, actually, because actually it needs to be understood because it's a long answer, but people who are listening, there is always a doubt, correct? So why we are seeing
Yes,
perception, why we are seeing the reality? So because it's a very nuanced view, which actually a fine thin line between reality and perception, and
exactly.
sometimes it interchanges depending on where you stand, on the which side you stand.
Yeah.
So now we are talking about power of sociology. So now we get into the primary core area of our discussion, that is power. So what do you mean by the power of sociology and how it manifests in our lives through academia, institutions, policies, government policies? Just give us a brief.
So, like I said, if your parents say you're a good person, that has a value. But far greater value is there when the CEO of your company says you're a good person, efficient worker, and talented guy, right? So it sometimes definitely depends on where the perception is coming from. The same thing can be said by a lot of people. If and I don't mean to demean anyone, if let's say a rickshawala says something and a doctor says something, a doctor is bound to, more people are bound to take the doctor more seriously. That's how human society works. Humans are hardwired to respect power in different ways, right? Um, but then that's a field. That's a different kind of field. So a doctor may not be able to lift two people up so easily, but a rickshawala can. So where physical strength is there, there it's different. But that's the whole point. Like there are areas of domination where some people are able to dominate while others aren't. When it comes to perception building, um, the production of ideas, there, because the West, the America, Europe, these you know these countries, they invested a lot of money and power in academia. So when these guys say something, it is quite serious and it is quite, it is taken as kind of a reality, even by Indians. So it's the same as, let's say, if somebody says that, I will cite, let's say you want to cite about an event in a paper. Okay. In that, uh, in that part, you will see how uh, people people will cite a news article from Al Jazeera, but they cannot cite a paper like OP India or something like that. Why? Because OP India does not have the legitimacy that Al Jazeera has. Why does Al Jazeera have a lot of legitimacy? Because firstly, it is Qatar funded. It is secondly, it has a kind of respectability because it has so much money. They could hire the top anchors and the top journalists. So when those guys say something, it is much more believable than what, let's say, a much smaller, weaker, space like Op India says. So, and this was always there. This, we act like pre-modern India was perfect in every way. It was perfect. It was good. It was perfect in its own way, but it did not, like there was a power hierarchy in different ways. I'll tell you why. So recently I read this paper on Kanyakubja Brahmins. Okay, Brahmins from Kannauj region was the capital of Harshavardhan, King Harshavardhan. This region was it was like the first world country of the world, right? Uh, so one of the top places, Banbhatta wrote about it in his Rajtarangini, and capital, the capital of Harshavardhan's kingdom was Kannauj. Very interestingly, in Bengal and all other places where uh, Brahmins were not so powerful initially, or there were other people, there were other rulers who were rising in power, they often imported Brahmins from Kannauj, including Bengal. So why did they import Brahmins only from Kannauj? They could have imported, they didn't need to import, but they were Brahmins. You know, there were Brahmins in Bengal, there were Brahmins in other parts of the country as well. Why was it so important for them to import Brahmins from Kannauj? Because it was the center of dharmic learning, Sanskrit literature, Sanskrit and other kinds of scientific and artistic developments of the time, right? So because it was the center of power in terms of, let's say, GDP, in terms of funding academics, Brahmins were academics, essentially professors and teachers and academics or whatever. So in that sense, that Kannauj region was very powerful. That is why the perception of those Brahmins was different from the Brahmins in Bengal, let's say. I was just talking to one historian. He's a fellow professor. His research is on, actually, this one, on the Vaidya caste of Bengal, Buddhi. The Buddhi caste, according to his theory, again, this may not be right, but that is his research that he's going to write. The Buddhis were the local indigenous Brahmins, primarily. And they were physicians and all that. And the Brahmins we say are Brahmins in Bengal were actually imported by the Sen dynasty and later Pal dynasty and the Varmans from Kannauj and these adjoining regions, North India basically. And like I said, it was because those guys were more legit. Let's say they were more legitimate Brahmins. Why were they more legitimate Brahmins? They came from first world country. मतलब तब का that time का first world country, right? 10th century, 11th century का first world country. So that is the main thing. That, I made a mistake. I think Rajtarangini was written by Kalhan. I think I made a mistake. Harsha Charita was, yeah. I was just thinking about something while talking. Yeah. Anyway, so where was I? Yeah. So the main thing is that it's because of Harshavardhan and the development of those, that region and the high amount of money and power that it had, that the Brahmins there were also more powerful than many indigenous or local Brahmins. So they were brought into Bengal and settled with land grants. But that's the whole point. Like, power is very important in knowledge. Knowledge to koi bhi kar sakta hai. And anyone can study a few texts and write a book and stuff, but it is very important that the right kind of scholar actually does this kind of the perception making, the scholarship, the literature and the science, because it is only when they do it that it has the sanction of power, that it has the sanction of superior beings. Okay, that is why, that is why people are often drawn to people with foreign degrees. It's the same logic. Even we did it. It's not a crime, or it's not a bad thing. It's just, uh, the America is now the first world country. Europe has the first world infrastructure. So the Brahmins there are given more respect and power. It's as simple as that. तुम वहां से पढ़ के आए हो, हार्वर्ड या MIT से पढ़ के आओगे, then people will obviously give you more respect, because simply because it's like a Brahmin is imported from Kannauj. It's the same logic. And I'm not saying you have to be from there. It's not like our university is all rubbish, and it's not that. It's just that they have the advantage. Okay. And that is how the Indian caste system was made into what it is. It was not, it has the perception of the caste system as it is right now in popular perception, even among Indians, was created by academics. And these were done by French sociologists sitting in France, in the Sorbonne University.
Yes. So if you can see how they had actually defined the Indian Bharatiya
Yes.
caste system or the social organization, and this is
Yes.
how they have defined it. Okay. So
Yes.
when you're talking about they have defined it, so there are four people who have Risley, Dumo, Bogie, and Sanat. Okay, so
Senat.
these are the,
Yeah.
yeah, these are the four. They all correct French? They're all French.
Risley is British, but the rest
Yes, yes,
rest are French.
rest are French. So they have actually defined. So now let's get a little bit more into meaty debates. So all these people actually defined the Indian caste system. Now, when we are talking about
Yes.
how these academics work over over hundred years ago,
Hmm.
actually affect us today. Can you give us an
Yes.
example that how their academic work is sometimes ruining our lives, sometimes making our lives a little bit better or same.
Or so Herbert Hope Risley, he was the father of Indian census in many ways. He led the Indian caste census exercises in the 1911 and 1911 census. Okay. There, he actually wrote a few books, Tribes and Castes of Bengal. Okay. Here, he used his theory based on racial theory in Europe. Okay. So, Paul Topinard, another French guy, his theory was that white people have longer and sharper noses, and the more black you are, the your nose becomes more blunt, basically, that kind of thing. So he used noses to determine racial purity, racial hierarchy. And Risley's theory was he juxtaposed that with Indian caste hierarchy, and he said ki upper castes have more pronounced noses, sharper noses, so they are white, they are Aryans, and this was based again on Max Muller's theories of Aryan brotherhood and all. Later on, which became Aryan invasion theory, and वहां से रिजली काइंड ऑफ टुक आउट कि हाँ देखो कास्ट क्या है कास्ट एक्चुअली रेस है that's Risley's understanding. He completely ignored that there are many instances of tribal kings becoming tribal chiefs becoming very important kings and all that, right? So so in Risley's view, caste was basically an expression of race. And how did he prove that? He took samples of nose sizes from people of different caste, and he said कि हाँ देखो upper caste का नाक ऊंचा है, matlab, or it's more pronounced, and lower castes are basically Africans, so they have uh, deeper noses and stuff. So that was his theory. Uh, this guy, when he wrote his Tribes and Castes of Bengal, it also has some interesting facts. So I'm not saying it's complete hogwash and rubbish, but the basic premise is rubbish, basically. And it also gave a scientific understanding of the caste system. So basically, earlier people were saying, हाँ caste तो religion है, तो religious system का क्या है कि you can change the religious idea, right? And people have challenged religious ideas in the past, so that is not a problem. Religious orthodoxy has been challenged by Hindus themselves. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and many others did it. So that is not the problem. Now the new problem is when you add a science to it of nasal index, what Risley did, then it becomes pseudoscience. It becomes scientific. So Risley was basically the Dhruv Rathi of 1911. हाँ, नमस्कार दोस्तों बोल के सबको टोपी पहना दिया. Okay. So that's what Risley did, and the impact of Risley was so much because the British government gave him power. The British government made him the census commissioner and commissioned his books and stuff like that. There were other anthropologists who did not agree with him, but उनको British ने ज़्यादा भाव नहीं दिया because British wanted to show that basically they want to divide the people, so they did that. That part we know. So what happened is Risley's books and all his reports, these reports and books reached people in Europe. Okay. And these European scholars used this as primary material to base their own research on. So what happened is that, in a sense, Risley was the father of the Indian caste system in that sense, because isse pehle this racialized version of the caste system was not there, right? Actually, it was there. It was, the Aryan invasion theory and all were there, but Risley kind of made it a science in many ways. Linguistics ही नहीं, he used biological, attributes, which turned it into a science. Okay. And that's why what happened is that his writings had a huge impact on European scholars who were basically, at that time, everyone believed in race. Anthropology was the study of races, of different people. So you would go to Africa, Asia, different parts of the world, and you would basically look at people, their physical attributes. Then you would understand कि हाँ ये हो रहा है वो हो रहा है, based on their observable attributes, okay, observable characteristics. So racial basis of caste was very much then embedded based on science, so-called pseudoscience. Senart and Bougle used these kind of texts in addition to some other texts. And what they did was they used these to create a perception that caste is a religious thing, especially Bougle. Okay. It is based on Brahmanical sanction because Brahmins are the most powerful religious figures. Caste is a religious thing. So they don't care about caste in Islam and caste in Christians and caste in Japan and all that. They are saying, ha, Brahmins said ki ye hoga, and everyone agreed ki ye hoga. And that is how Brahmins were able to establish caste system in India. And the people accepted it. Most people. Because why? People were stupid. They were listening to 5% population people without any challenge, without any kind of, any kind of opposition. Okay. So this is how these Senart, Bougle and these others, they created the ideas of caste. Now Weber was also there. So a lot of people will say Weber was also alive and he was writing the sociology of religion in India and all that. And Weber was much better than them. Weber was also relying on British data, but Weber had his own ideas. The problem was that, and this has been exposed at large by Lardin OS, that Weber's theories were not translated in English till 1958. And even then, it wasn't so popular. It wasn't like a must-read book and stuff. Senart's books were translated by the 1920s and 30s. So Senart had 30-40 years to kind of, Senart's books were circulating, Senart, Bouglé, all their books. Slowly, people were reading French literature, French translation of French sociology regarding India in different parts of the world. So by the time Weber's theory came to us and other parts of the world, because Weber wrote in German, by that time the ideas of the French school had already disseminated. So even though Weber's ideas were much better, as Neeraj, as you know, CSK keeps saying, that Weber was not really accepted by sociologists because he was late to the party, because it was unfortunate for us. Now the student of Bouglé and Senart, student matlab more like Uttaradhikari, okay, descendant, intellectual descendant from these people, was the great Louis Dumont. Louis Dumont wrote the worst book on caste in 1966. This is the worst book because it is completely fake, almost entirely fake. But it was in French. But it was translated in 1970. And it became a huge bestseller. Kyuki, what he did was in Homo Hierarchicus, he said that I have found the basis, the main basis of caste in India. And that is purity and pollution. So Brahmins are the purest and untouchable Dalits are the most impure, polluted people. And it is based on this perception that, the caste system is structured. And we have been spending 50 years, 60 years or so trying to debunk his theories. Many Indian sociologists, historians, they have all debunked his theories. Dirks hai, Dipankar Gupta, Declan Quigley, all these people, they have debunked Dumont. But the problem is that their debunking is limited to only some classrooms and some people like me who are in academia. But Dumont's theories, actually Dumont's theories were based on a longer tradition of theories, right? So Dumont's was like the latest edition of that. So that just fed into our ideas. Okay, that just became the normal idea of caste. And that was embedded, and that was, many colleges and all these institutes, people read Dumont's works very seriously, even Hindus. And some challenged him later on, like Dipankar Gupta and all these people. But majority didn't, because a white guy wrote that, right? A white guy sitting in Sorbonne University, the guy who edited the journal Contributions to Indian Sociology, which is still running, by the way. The French, so the Contributions to Indian Sociology was started by a French guy sitting in France. So tum soch ke dekho, the most pioneering, and people like Ghure and all these people, they were there. They were also sociologists. They also subscribed to Aryan invasion theory and stuff like that. So the problem is that, firstly, Aryan invasion theory ko normalize kar diya British ne, using pseudoscience. Then they normalized the racial basis of caste system. Then they normalized the religious basis of caste system. All this was done by academics. They were not done by politicians or other people. They were done by PhD dhari academics, the Brahmins, okay, of the West, most importantly. And we did not have an answer. Why did we not have an answer? Because firstly, our knowledge of Sanskrit, our knowledge of history was all tainted in different ways. So we were taught Aryan invasion theory in school. I think you were taught, I was taught, most of us were taught Aryan invasion theory. Uh, and that's how that works. Like at a very, in your childhood, if you are given some ideas, it's very difficult to get rid of that when you grow up. And that is the whole thing, that we, any challenges to Dumontian sociology and all this, these these were kind of like the minority view. So that's the problem.
Okay, so two things which we need to understand, that when we are talking about that,
I'll just
why,
mute myself for a
yeah.
second. Huh?
Go ahead. Let me just actually explain this to the audience itself, that why we are talking about this. First of all, correct. So when we are talking about, we should worship Sita Ram Golji Kesi Lal. Okay, yeah. Okay. So the first of all, we need to understand that why a PhD holder academic, okay, doing some research, and how his research actually impacts you, yours, and my life, okay, over generation, not even one generation. Okay. So if you can see here, first of all, you have all these theories being done, okay, debunking, bunking. They are having theories on caste, racial, Hinduism, Brahminism, all these things come. What is the impact of all this? The impact of all this is that the culmination came into Mandal Commission in 1989-91, and Mandal Commission reserved 27% of the group called OBCs, other backward castes, and they got 27% reservation based on the almost a centuries of work by these French and British academics to actually create the framework on caste, caste discrimination, and religious sanction, connection with caste and Hinduism, and atrocity and all the other things. So that's why when we say that 10 people, 15 people having PhDs, writing papers, books over their over 50 years, it is going to create a kind of corpus of studies, okay, studies or policy material data for policies, government policies, and they're going to have a long term, very, very long term impact. So now we see 1991 when you have the Mandal Commission being there, and now we can see, correct. So now the in some states, like Tamil Nadu, you have a reservation of almost 90%. Okay, in general, okay, they will have. So the works of these academics has culminated into your mine, or maybe one generation ago, correct? People's jobs, their jobs prospects, okay, what kind of money they will earn, what kind of social status they have, what kind of politics which is there. Caste again has become a very, like a cornerstone of political agenda. Okay, the politics is now driven by caste identity itself. And again, this caste identity was solidified and made into a state policy by these academics works as the base, as a foundation of the work itself. So when academic man is talking about that, the power of sociology is this, that if it's cultivated and sponsored by state, supported by state, and done over a long period of time, it will make sure that how much money you earn, whom you marry, what kind of politicians and politics is done, the kind of development work, economic society, everything will be impacted by people who are doing this work over a long period of time. That is the power of sociology. That today you could have a kind of a very untoward incident if today you remove these reservations which are given to ST, ST, OBC, and other people. It could get the country into big trouble if these are removed today. And what are the basis of these reservations, which now are running economy, politics, society, is the works of these giants of sociology, and they all were three were French and one was a British person. So your lives are do get impacted by the academia in so many ways over a long period of time. Yes, sir.
Audible?
Yes, go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah, yeah. Oh, thanks for explaining it in such a nice and succinct manner.
Hmm.
Actually, you have said a lot of what I was going to say. But,
Sorry,
we'll
sorry,
no, no,
sorry for that.
that's it means that I am my whatever little audience is there, including you, are having, you guys are understanding what I'm trying to say, and it makes me happy as a teacher as well. So, what my point today was essentially, like you said, that some books, 4, 5, 10, 20 books, okay, those guys wrote in the 1900s. They have a real life impact on the geopolitics of our country today. And we are blessed. The good thing is we are blessed that we have the technology to communicate like this. That 10, 20 people are listening to you, maybe more in the later, it's a Sunday, so people will listen later. Whatever, people will listen to you, and maybe even we can impact 20, 30 people. And these 10, 20, 30, 40 people will impact 50 people more each, right? They can give our ideas, but that's because of social media. But that's why it is even more essential for us to produce knowledge now, for us to do what the British and like, देखो, the tragedy of Weber, देखो, Weber का जो books the the books that are taught in college and university are not the books that Neerajan likes in CSK. I mean, he likes Protestant Ethic and Spirit of Capitalism. That is the one most awesome anti-Marxist book ever written. But that's not the point. Uh, Weber's book on Indian religions, Hindusmas and Buddhismas, these works, which could have been more critical of Risley and others, where Weber compared our caste to status groups in Europe, where he said, "यार ये तो nobility है." हाँ. So that those books were not taught in India, despite the English editions coming out in 1958. Why did not Indian professors of sociology who taught in Indian colleges and universities, why did they not teach Weber? Because state ने बोला मत पढ़ाओ. It's as simple as that. And back then we didn't have internet, so people didn't know. A lot of people don't know that Weber wrote a book on Hinduism and Buddhism, and that has a very nice explanation of caste based on economics and all that. So that's the whole point. You see, Weber ke jaise, what's happening is we have people who write great things, but they are not writing in the right places. Why would they? Because Sitaram Goel ji, who wrote great books, K.S. Lal was still a member of ICHR, but unko, he was sidelined by Congress. Sitaram Goel ji, Ram Swarup ji, all these people, R.C. Majumdar. R.C. Majumdar was the biggest victim of Nehruvian politics. Okay. Sitaram Goel ji, all of these people, they wrote great books, but the political parties did not allow them. तब internet नहीं था, so they got, मतलब आज के दिन में अगर if these same people were there right now here, they would have been celebrities. And देखो, the important thing is Sitaram Goel ji was trained as a communist, so he knew how to hit it. मतलब तुमको ट्रेनिंग भी लेना पड़ेगा ना. You have to get trained in the art of creating the perception. So Sitaram Goel ji was trained in the art of propaganda. So he knew how to write, what to write to get people to kind of, whatever little that people like us read from these people, that impact is there because these were great authors. They were trained by the best minds. Okay. R.C. Majumdar, Sir Jodunath Sarkar, These people were Jadunath Sarkar was knighted. He was Sir Jadunath Sarkar. R.C. Majumdar had a PhD back then. So you have to understand that these people had the nationalists, they were sidelined, but even the nationalists who are important, they were trained by the top people. Okay, they were trained in foreign institutes, or they were trained by communist intellectuals, so they knew how to play the game. ये भी एक बात है. This is the problem with what I see our intellectuals experiencing, that social science is a game. Okay, ये एक सीखना पड़ेगा. Like I said, people like you who are in the STEM fields, your job is to provide solutions. Our job is to create problems. So the art of propaganda is actually taught to us how to write the right things. Okay, which is why Jesai Deepak is so good. Jesai Deepak learned that. Okay, and Jesai Deepak's books had a huge impact because Jesai Deepak knows that if I publish from Bloomsbury, it will have a better impact. He can publish. I'm not saying Garuda and all these publishers, they are there. They are doing great work. But the problem that happens is a big bookstore like Bari and Sons or Crossword and all these bookstores, they will advertise Bloomsbury books first. They will keep Garuda in the last shelf. Okay, and unless you are somebody like us, you will not look for those books. Okay, this is a game of power. This is a game of location. Okay, this is a game of basically how structures of economy and politics have created our knowledge economy. Knowledge is an economy, and these are all structures. So if a person does a PhD from Calcutta University, used to be a great university. Let's say somebody does a PhD from Calcutta University, and somebody does a PhD from Harvard University. Even if the Calcutta University guy is more honest, better, good at his work, it won't matter because the Harvard University guy will get the job at the top university. That is why this thing that I say, that where GOI needs to invest in universities to make them such that Indian universities can produce the kind of knowledge that GOI wants, but it is more legit. So the problem with GOI is they thought that university ko capture kar lenge. This is what Kaushalesh Rai was saying in a video, where he said that this guy Ram Madhav ji, he went to a conference and he said, we have reclaimed our universities. Okay, now the problem is that this guy Kaushalesh is saying that Ram Madhav ji does not, he's living in a different reality. Because in Delhi University, when they tried to introduce Manusmriti just as a critical reading, अरे Manusmriti में पढ़ तो लो भाई, you can burn it later, but at least read it before you burn it, right? So they didn't even allow that, and the BJP spokesperson and everyone, they were like, the vice chancellor, everyone was like, no, we can't, this one, there'll be problems. So they got spooked out. But Delhi University is completely controlled by BJP and RSS. वहाँ के teachers wing is controlled by them. वहाँ के students wing is controlled by them. And yet there was nobody with enough, legitimacy and power to say that, okay, let's read the Manusmriti. Who cares? It's a text, right? We have to read even texts that we don't like. I don't like reading the Communist Manifesto. I have to read it because I have to critique it. Critique करने के लिए भी तो पढ़ो. And कुछ तो even I sometimes agree with Marx on a few things. So उसके लिए भी तो but that's the thing. If they were promoting Communist Manifesto on the campus, then nobody would say a word. But because they are promoting, and Communist Manifesto is one of the most dangerous books in the world, and yet nobody is saying anything. because it has been naturalized, it has been normalized. And that is the problem. That is where all our, all the problems have been. That we have not been able to create the kind of parallel institution. When they say create parallel institution, a parallel institution banao, but a KFC can be replaced by McDonald's. A KFC Kentucky Fried Chicken you can't replace with Kolkata Fried Chicken, right? You have to replace with something like McDonald's or Burger King. You can't say Kolkata Fried Chicken is also KFC. Kentucky Fried Chicken is also KFC. So both are the same. You can't say that. So that is the problem. And yes, like Shayok is saying that Springer, Rutledge, Wiley, etc. These are all publishing mafias. They are. That's the reality. Multi-billion-dollar business. And they are in the knowledge production business. And why are they producing useless crap? Why are they doing this? You and I won't read it, but what happens is when an academic journal publishes something, that is the beauty of it. Even if it has no impact, it has zero impact, right? It helps you in creating a citation loop. So सोच लो that in an academic journal I write that Navavimarsh is a good channel. Okay. Then somebody will cite that and say Navavimarsh is a great channel. And then somebody will cite that and say Navavimarsh is the best channel. Okay. ऐसे होता है academic citation. And nobody's gonna go back and check. A lot of people don't check. So when the final scholarship is there, then based on those old citations, knowledge is created. New knowledge is created, and that knowledge is based on a skewed perception of reality. So that is the main thing. Like that is where we are lacking right now, and that is where we must work much harder than usual.
Okay, so we are going to open up the debate to the members. So members who are joined as members for this channel, check the members only community post. You will find the link to join and share your views, comments, suggestions to us, to me and to Academic Man. And people who want this document, okay, because it's an HTML document. So if you want this document, then send me an email. I'll share the document to you over the email, because this has a lot of information. If somebody is interested in understanding the whole caste genealogy in that way, so you will have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think so. Let me ask few questions on this document itself. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me go back to legacy. Okay, I want to discuss this new complexities, wealth versus status mobility. So, like
Yes.
it tells you about, correct, the marriage, jobs, and other things. Like it says, contemporary India reveals that the purity of ideology isn't deterministic as Dumo suggested. Some
Yes.
traditionally lower castes have become wealthy and politically powerful, yet face persistent discrimination. Conversely, impoverished upper caste groups retain social status. Example, Dalits and OBCs in tech industry earning six-figure still face marriage discrimination. Some OBC farmer castes have become wealthy and politically powerful, yet still yet still claim OBC status for reservations. Poor Brahmin migrants can't access OBC reservations despite economic need. This shows caste and class are distinct hierarchies that interact but don't fully overlap, complicating simple theories.
But again, this is not unique to India. Or unique to Hinduism.
Exactly.
So
Okay.
let's say, and this is an example I keep giving to everyone. The Queen of England is not the Queen. She's passed away. the king of England is not the richest person in England. इंग्लैंड में जो करोड़पति है they are much richer than the king or queen or whatever. They can buy Buckingham Palace 10 times and sell it off. Whatever, it's up to them. My point is that फिर भी the king and the queen of England, the lord, the house of lords, okay, those people have higher respect and status and prestige compared to many of the rich guys, like let's say somebody like Elon Musk. Okay. So, or somebody who's just a rich guy. Okay. Maybe you won a lottery and you're a rich guy now. But they will not be the same as somebody who is a lord in the House of Lords or the Queen or the King of England. Right. It's because status is based on respect, and respect is based on power or your location of power. So again, interestingly, when we see poor Brahmins, let's say, then they might say I'm a Brahmin, but they are not getting jobs based on that, right? Anymore. So they can say I'm a Brahmin, but it doesn't mean they will always get Brahmin girls. And on the other hand, you have cases like Mayawati and many others, who's I'm pretty sure Mayawati's nephew will marry a powerful woman, whichever caste that is, right? ये ऐसे ही होता है. When people gain power and prestige, it changes things. It changes the status. Not so fast, obviously, but it changes. But that is the little that the change does not happen, where that okay, Brahmins can still claim that okay, we are very knowledgeable and powerful and whatnot. वो जो respect or prestige है, that is a result of latency almost. That's a kind of latency. So, but like I said, that the British monarchy or the House of Lords, they don't have a ton of power anymore because they don't have the money. Matlab, paisa is important also. So, this very distinct idea between, it's kind of like what Weber said, that class and caste are different because class is an objective situation where you have money. Caste or status is based on your belongingness to a group. So let's say you belong to House of Lords, then you are a lord. Then you are higher ranked than other people in society. That's great, good for you. But he also said that let's say you lose money. Okay, we have seen many kings have become poor, many rich people have become poor over time. Then what happens is that they lose their status. That is fairly common as well. पैसा नहीं होगा तो after a while people will also stop taking you seriously. But maybe for a generation or two you can pretend to be high status. ऐसे ही काम होता है. So even where the, let's say, Brahmins don't dominate in every part of India. Where they do dominate, like West Bengal, there they had access to wealth, power, and they are still the dominant political elites and cultural elites of West Bengal. That's why they are able to dominate. Otherwise, that's changing because the other castes and Muslims, they are all rising in Bengal. They are more money right now. So they are going to slowly, the Brahmin domination is going to go in Bengal. That is the reality.
Okay, I think Retro was trying to join. Retro, you can rejoin again. Okay. I think one person was trying to join, but I think some issue with this thing. So anyway, you can join again. I will add you to that. So okay, now let me go back because we have few minutes. Then we will take the audience itself. So now I have few curious questions. Then we will take also audience question. Okay.
Yeah.
So when we are talking about the power of sociology, and we have talked about Mandal Commission, okay, about reservations, independence, politics, correct. So they all are impacting our lives in a silent manner, sometimes in a very direct manner, sometimes in a very silent manner, and sometimes we don't realize that we are driven by this. So this academia and the way it functions, correct? And now we see that the nationalists across the globe, including America, including in other countries in India, correct? They do not understand how the academia functions, the elites, how the elites function. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? Why, especially in Indian context, that Ram Madhav said that we have captured the academia. Now everything is well and good, hunky and dory, but in actuality nothing had happened. Why do you think this perception was created at the first place?
No, the perception was that, because some people who are right wing, so called, or Indian, Indic wing, or whatever,
Hmm.
who profess open allegiance,
Hmm.
okay, to an ideology,
Hmm.
those people were given jobs under
Hmm.
this administration,
Hmm.
BJP, RSS based
Hmm.
administration.
Hmm.
That's good. But the problem is that they don't have the power to change perception. The people who were given jobs were not talented enough or legitimate enough to change perception. So I'll I won't name the person.
Hmm.
There are people in powerful positions in academia in India right now
Hmm.
who write articles who say very radical things, like who say stuff like, there are problems in academia. Uh, People are entering academia with all radical ideas and stuff. They write articles, they say these things, but it doesn't amount to anything
Hmm.
because they don't have the. Firstly, they say some stuff openly. Okay, if you will, when you hear me talk, you will see that I don't usually use terms like terrorist and this and that, very openly. I usually qualify my terms and talk. If I spoke like a BJP spokesperson, I don't think the few people who watch my podcast would have watched. With the they would have opened Republic and watched. So if an academic talks like a BJP spokesperson, then that person will never be taken seriously. Number one, yes, they may vote for BJP, they may support BJP or RSS, but the main thing is you have to act like a neutral person. Okay, you can't act like a BJP spokesperson. Number one, ये लेफ्ट वाले करते हैं. Sometimes they will even critique the left, but ideology wise they will be close to the left. They will promote the ideology, but they will show it that I am a neutral guy. I even abuse the left. Left
Uh,
understands this game very well.
Let me interject you. Okay. So,
Yeah.
one of the reasons could be from my perspective is that
Hmm.
us, like the nationalists. So,
Yeah.
nationalism is generally a reactive force. Okay. It is
Hmm.
correct. Nationalism, or let's say right wing, correct. They are
Yeah.
generally reacting to the people who are already there, and they have their own systems of levers to work,
Yeah.
work with. So when you are a reactive force in nature, in general, correct? So you will
Hmm.
not be as methodical, as systematic as people who are already in the system, running the system.
Yes.
So that could be one. So we are trying to find out what's happening. Like, I am not absolutely correct, you are not absolutely correct. Even the audience
Yeah.
can also tell us what they think, and we'll also have retro come and join us. So let me finish my
Yeah.
point. Let me actually add retro.
Yeah.
So yeah. So in my perception, what happens is that because they are a reactionary forces, okay, they have never been in, they have never spent enough time, okay, being in the system, having being part of the system to actually comprehend its complexities, its understanding, its nuances. So, and to actually compensate for lack of knowledge or experience being in that ecosystem, they would just declare victory as a moral victory, so that
That
they are giving
that is
giving a
one
perception.
that yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead,
No,
go ahead.
that is an important point that you make. But the reality, I will tell you, there is another problem that is now hitting them back. That is,
Mm,
that is, I get it if you make these mistakes early on.
Hmm.
For example, if you make a Gajendra Chauhan,
Hmm.
वो कहा ये वो क्या है पुणे में वो the film institute in Pune,
FTTI.
FTII, yeah. If you make an unknown guy like Gajendra Chauhan or somebody the head of that thing, the Pune thing, then obviously there will be backlash.
Hmm.
But okay, I can understand initially you did not understand. Okay. But later on they understood that there is a credibility issue here. So they put Anupam Kher in the same position.
Hmm.
Anupam Kher has also been openly voicing pro-Indic points, but Anupam Kher को तो कोई बोल नहीं सकता कि Anupam Kher is a Hollywood actor as well. So Anupam Kher को क्यों लाया? Because they understood कि Hollywood का मार्क है इस बंदे पे. Hollywood, Bollywood, हर जगह में Anupam Kher has worked with the top directors. He's worked with Martin Scorsese, right? He's worked with the top people. So he's worked with Robert De Niro. So they know that Anupam Kher has a level of respect that Gajendra Chauhan will never have. But this is the principle they must apply. So when Operation Sindoor was happening, they sent Shashi Tharoor. They did not send Sadhvi Pragya. They did not send other people, right? And that's the whole point, that they know that when Shashi Tharoor goes to France and talks to a French journalist in French and explains Operation Sindoor, then that has a different ball game entirely. They could have sent a lot of people. BJP में MP का कमी है क्या? But they did not send those people. Firstly, opposition party guy that works, but opposition में भी तो बहुत बेकार लोग है ना. So why would they send Shashi Tharoor? Because they know that when this guy talks in English, in French, he makes an impact which is much more than any BJP MP or even opposition party MP who does not speak like him cannot have. They know. So the same principle must be applied to academia कि जिन लोगों के पास ट्रेनिंग है ना, the people who have been trained in the art of propaganda, the people who have foreign degrees, foreign credentials, not just foreign, यहाँ पे भी there are people who are willing to sell their souls. Left में भी लोग हैं. You have to either, and you can't just suddenly wake up one morning and say सबसे बड़ा लेफ्टिस्ट कौन है, सबसे radical लेफ्टिस्ट कौन है, उसको लेके आओ. Then what happens is your own people get angry. That's what's happening. When Sam Dalrymple is invited for an event, people are like, अरे इसका बाप तो हमको इतना साल गाली दिया, ये भी तो हमको गाली दिया, इसको बुला के क्या? So there are people, you don't need those guys. There are many people who have been silently working in the backdrop for many years. Many people have been there. Even I can name a few myself, Professor Shomodev, many others. Those who have credentials, respectability, those who can hold an argument, those who can, you can't say WhatsApp University. Okay. So WhatsApp University जिसको तुम नहीं बोल पाओगे, बहुत लोग हैं ऐसे. Even right wing में भी है, Indic wing में भी है. But the problem is that then you promote people with the worst publication records, might I add, to the top positions in academia because they are loyalists. इससे काम नहीं होता है. Then you have a Gajendra Chauhan situation, and unless you bring in Anupam Khers and all these people, then nobody will listen to it. It's as simple as that. It's a matter of credibility and power. Retro bet hai. Let's.
Okay, Retro, a question to you so that we can start the discussion. So, what do you
पहले
think?
तो retro खुद को hikikomori क्यों बोल रहा है?
Retro is an international person. Yeah, Retro, you can unmute yourself.
You know what hikikomori is? Hikikomori वो सब बच्चे लोग हैं वो जो घर में रहते हैं, inside a room, they sit all day, माँ बाप वो खाना देते हैं और सारा दिन मोबाइल और उस पे लगे रहते हैं और निकलते नहीं है. They have anxiety, social anxiety. ये जापान में होता है. हाँ. तो हमारे एक टीचर थे, उन्होंने बोला कि why only in Japan? This does not happen in rural China or India. ये सब हिकिकमोरी फमोरी तो ये सब जापान में ही होता है, क्योंकि वहां पे बहुत पैसा है तो उनपे वो सब हो रहा है. हाँ.
Retro, you can
चलो.
unmute yourself.
हाँ, please.
All right. Hello. Good evening. So I'm Retro. So why I wrote Hikikomori? Because I tore my ACL and I'm like bound to my bed. That's why.
Oh, okay. Same.
So yeah, Navami Marza, you were asking me a question. So
No, you start with your comment and then they will ask the question. You
all
start
right.
with your
Right.
thought.
Okay, it's less of a comment and more of like a loaded question. So, look, we understand that like the Brahmin community has like had or still have like a big stronghold on universities, right? And then most of them have become professors and stuff. So I want to know like, and we also know that Brahmin, we need to do as like if we want to like promote a narrative to our society, we need to do like Brahmin Bhojan, as like I heard like academic men say it a lot of time, and I agree with it as well. So I want to know, like, how did this Brahmins become commies, right? Like the recent, like professors in IITs and stuff, like Miss Trivedi or Divedi, I forgot her name. She's like
Yeah, Divya
she looks
Divedi,
pretty, but
IIT Delhi.
yeah, she looks pretty, but she's like a really far left leaning person. And how can we
Yeah.
like break this Brahmin commie stronghold in academia, right? And continuing with this, I'll add one more question. Like, why do you think like BJP doesn't do much Brahmin Bhojan like the left, at least openly? Is it because of the ignorance, or is it like they have some kind of other thought or working process? So this is like the full question.
Okay. So firstly, how did Brahmins become commies? A section of Brahmins, not all. They were the landed elites in the ancient times and even medieval times, right? So when the British came, a lot of them, yes, we also have Savarkar, Shama Prasad Mukherjee, all of them were also Brahmins. But there were other Brahmins as well who were communists. Just say M.N. Roy. M.N. Roy was actually Narendranath Bhattacharya. Then you have other communist leaders of the time, even Kanu Sannal and all these people, Charu Majumdar, who were Naxal leaders. They are all Brahmins. So what happened is that the British Raj incentivized a lot of Brahmins to become anti-Hindu and anti-national. Anti-national तो तब नहीं था, तब तो वही national था. हम लोग Savarkar was anti-national back then. So, but anyway, then Savarkar, after independence, we can, I guess, hopefully say that he's nationalist because Congress and all to treat him like an untouchable. So anyway, given that, it was incentive structure essentially. And therefore, after 1960s especially, the left was a global movement. The left was promoted heavily by the KGB and all these kind of foreign governments, and they were given the people who are loyalists, they were given positions of power in academia, permanent positions for towing the line of the Communist Party. I know many people in Delhi University of that time who basically did their PhD on how great CPIM was or how great Russia was and all that, and they got jobs in Delhi University and all that. Now you might say that, okay, then Dada, why are you saying that BJP is making a mistake, but those guys didn't? That's the difference. The left promotes very talented people in academia. मतलब उनमें जो talented है. The left is very casteist in that sense. The left believes in merit in that sense. And as a result, most academics on the left are Brahmins. But the left uses them to criticize Hinduism and Brahmanism. So what is the biggest tragedy is the left was able to co-opt through paisa and power and position that, the same people who are supposed to uphold the dharma through religious practice, supposed to uphold dharma to hum sab mein hai, but Brahmins were more privileged in that sense that they have the cultural capital to uphold Indian or Hindu consciousness. They co-opted them through paisa and power. And that's how they created this class of people. इनके बच्चे तो वही होंगे ना. Like if you see the professor you mentioned, she comes from a highly privileged family. Highly privileged. I mean, I say highly privileged. I mean, एकदम IAS, IPS officer, top class rank का, huh? So you will see how these Brahmins who were the best, who were academics essentially, इनको लेफ्ट ने पैसा वैसा देके इनको अपने तरफ कर लिया. And their second, third generation will be obviously believers. मतलब it's the same logic as when they converted people using Sufism. कि पहले सूफी ऊपी बना के कुछ भी कर दो, फिर बाद में we can make it more pure kind of, you know, Islam. So the same logic that if you convert the first 2-3 generations, then the next few generations automatically will become believers, right? So that's the thing. That's how the left created this thing. And the second question क्या था मैं भूल गया.
Yeah, the second question is like, how can we break the Brahmin and Commie stronghold in academia?
Brahmin Commie वो तो नहीं है. मतलब you can basically, that's what I've been saying, that the BJP and the Sangh must play the same game as them. If you have talented people in your organization, promote them. It's as simple as that. If you have, but for that you must.
Sorry, academic one. I apologize to to stop you, but like what I want to know is like let's say like most of the professors they come from like the Brahmin background, right, or the upper echelon of our society, right? I want to know like how can we push more like other parts of our society to get to that position. That's what I want to focus on. I apologize for stopping you though.
No, that's fine. Though that's a good question, but the problem in that is that you're looking for outcome of equality of outcome. You're not looking at equality of opportunity. But if you look at equality of outcome, then you're a leftist, essentially. And I think this is the main problem also with the Sangh and the BJP. I also believe that there must be, greater diversity. That's the whole reason we talk about BBK and all that stuff, right? But diversity मतलब ये नहीं कि सबको position दे दो. Diversity means that you have a more open talent system. People from different caste and communities will come and they will say that, okay, they will prove their might and they will, prove themselves. So there, in terms of political leadership, the BJP is actually not so bad in terms of that, because they promote leaders sometimes, not all the time again. They promote, like Guru Prasad Paswan, Abhinav Prakash, etc. So these people have come up from the Dalit caste. Different caste people are there. So ऐसा नहीं है कि there is nobody. But it must not be done keeping a certain quota in mind. When I say quota, I mean कि इतने caste से इतने लोगों को लेंगे, ऐसे करोगे ना. That is the whole problem behind the why the BJP is failing. Because BJP thinks कि हाँ इस community से इसको लेंगे, इस community से इसको लेंगे, यहाँ से वो करेंगे, ये करेंगे, बस हो गया. इनसे हमारा कितने loyalists है from, let's say, Meena caste. Let's say they say we need 10 academics from Meena caste. We need 5 academics from Thakur caste. Okay. We need 20 academics from this caste, that caste, Rajput caste, whatever. ऐसे करते हैं ना. So academia, I'm not saying just academia, any kind of this thing, organization, that will fall apart eventually if they do it on the quota basis like that. But I know that there are talented people in these places. तो तुम लोग वैसे करो ना, meritocratic बना दो. If you make it more meritocratic in different ways, जैसे for example, the Delhi University recruitments, I know for a fact it's not very meritocratic. But if they made it meritocratic, I know a bunch of people who I know are nationalists, who I know are pro-Hindu scholars, who are dying to get in. But they don't even know, although these guys are are a part of the Sangh as well. The Sangh knows about them, but they never promote these guys. So that's the whole problem. Unless you, so any field has to be meritocratic to survive. Okay, so that is the main thing. Okay.
Yes, yes. And what about the like the communist stronghold, Like even if we let's say make it meritocratic and like a lot of people who are more uh, uh, like from other we make it more diverse by making it meritocratic, right? But like what if
Yeah.
like still like the most of the people who come out of this educational system they're like uh, they're like biased to be left leaning, right? Because of our education system. So how do we make it so that they're not?
Ah,
And my last question
this is
was
a
like,
very
like why do you think BJP? Yeah,
no.
sorry,
Can you
please
hold the
continue.
last question for the last? I'll first answer this, then I'll get back to the last question. Okay. So, because I
Sure, sure,
forget the
sure. Perfect.
questions. So, what I'm trying to say is that yes, majority will be left leaning for now. ये तो है ही. If you see, you have to understand. A teacher or a professor, uh, there are they have to appeal to students, right? There are young Gen Z kids who are coming, Gen Z or kya aajkal hai, I don't know. So they are coming to a college or university, and they are looking at a professor, and they are, I'm not saying that ekdam sab kharab hai, but what I'm saying is that let's say a person, like I keep saying, is from a great university, automatically एक power perception आ जाएगा बच्चों में. Okay, so let's say there are 20 kids in a department and there are 5 professors. Okay, so the 20 kids देखेंगे कि कौन सा professor, and आजकल everything is available online, right? So they check often, and I've seen this personally because I used to teach as well, and I know many teachers, so I know how this works. So the students and their parents sometimes go to the teacher profile and they check, अच्छा अच्छा इस बंदे का यहाँ से डिग्री है, nice nice, okay, so Harvard से डिग्री है, nice, that means this guy is obviously more educated than the guy from even JNU or Delhi University or whatever, right? So that is how a hierarchy is created, number one. Number two is, if you promote talented right wingers, like let's say Anand Ranganathan, okay, then what happens is Anand Ranganathan is also a teacher, he's a professor, but he's in a different field. That's the problem, actually. He's not a social science guy, technically. So, but he understands it quite well. But the problem is, one Anand Ranganathan can defeat 20 leftists. But तुमको तो वैसे आनंद रंगनाथन लाने पड़ेंगे ना. Anand Ranganathan got a job in JNU. He has a PhD from Cambridge University. He is a very talented guy. He is very old at this point. So he is doing एकदम वो खुला बोलता है, जो बोलना है ओपनली हिंदुओं के लिए बोलता है. But as you know that academia is a very risky place for any nationalist. Okay, why do you think I hide my face? So if I do not get institutional support, or people like us do not get institutional support, then what happens is that these people don't speak up. You won't get more Anand Ranganathans unless you give them proper government support and job and salary and all that support system. So in fear of that, that is not happening. और जिनको दे रहे हैं ये लोग, they are not necessarily the most talented and most powerful people to impact the discourse. So maybe let's say they give it to me. They say, okay, you are a great academic man, is a great guy. So let's give him a job and salary, benefits, permanent post, everything. Modi ji ka आशीर्वाद मिल गया. Nice. But I may not be the most talented guy to promote. I'm not saying that I am the most talented guy, but I'm saying I might not be the most talented guy to promote the discourse. Maybe the students will hate me. That's a possibility, right? I can't discount that possibility. So then what will be the impact? So let's say they hire me, I become a BJP shill, I get hired, I go to Delhi University and the students hate me. So then it will be useless. That is why a meritocratic system is in the end, it will ultimately benefit the BJP itself. Even if majority people come in, who are coming in are leftist, एक आध 10-20 जो nationalist आएंगे ना, the powerful guys or women, they can defeat them. अरे मैंने खुद देखा है. Okay, that is the main thing. हाँ, तो next वाला क्या है?
Yes, the next question is that's the last one. Like, why do you think
Yeah.
BJP doesn't do much Brahmin Bhojan, and is it because of their, their politics or ignorance, or they have some other working or thought process?
So if they are ignorant, I don't think they are completely ignorant. Like I said, the BJP also knows that Shashi Tharoor ko bhejne se kaam ho jayega, right? So I don't think they are completely ignorant. I think that what Bhupen is also saying is true, that because they had a shock therapy, essentially, they got shocked when they came into power, ki they don't trust anyone but loyalists. And that is natural. Okay, after getting beaten up for 50-60 years, if you come to power, wo natural hai, but then you must, 10 years later, you must learn to play the game. If you are still not learning 10 years later, then it's your fault, in my opinion. Okay. Yes, the people understand that ye jo, the leftists who are there, we must co-opt them. The indie queen wale ko or talented banana padega. Ye sab they understand on paper. But sometimes also what happens is the people who are promoted in academia, मतलब इन चार्ज ऑफ देखो मोहन भागवत और मोदी तो हर जगह नहीं जाके देखेंगे ना कि कौन सा हु इज हैंडलिंग व्हाट, राइट? दे आर टू बिजी टू हैंडल एकेडमिया भी संभालेंगे, नेशनल सिक्योरिटी भी संभालेंगे. ये सब ऐसे तो नहीं होगा. आई एम प्रीटी श्योर दैट दे वुड प्रमोट टैलेंटेड पीपल, बट द प्रॉब्लम इज दैट द समटाइम्स personally what I've understood is sometimes what happens is the people they give a daitwa to, the people they are giving the power to kind of judge who is good and who is bad, they may not be the best people to judge that. They may not be the most what can I say, the most open-minded people, let's say. So ऐसे होता है, but I think because of 240, because of a lot of things, I think that some things will change. And I think that podcasts like CSK, people like Harshil and all, they are also having an impact. Podcasts like Navavimarsh are also trying to promote a different kind of discourse. So, aise hi hoga. I mean, ultimately, we are all kind of intellectual descendants of Sitaram Goel ji. And उनको ही तो खुद मतलब all his life he spent without much recognition, right? So he could have easily defeated a Sam Dalrymple or William Dalrymple, but क्या बोले, I mean his luck was bad that he was fighting for a cause जिसका कोई support नहीं था, तब भी नहीं था. So that is I guess the tragedy, but I also believe that in the age of social media there is more scope for change. And I think we can hope for better stuff in the future. Let's see. Let's hope. Yeah.
Okay. So retro, I think we have 5 minutes to 10 minutes. So let me ask one more thing to academic man, important one.
Yeah.
Do you think that this there is a lack of systemic approach when you are a reactionary force? Because I'll give an example. When I'm saying that correct, the left actually created, okay, let me get this done. Okay, so left actually created the foundations, okay, the legitimate institutions, promoted them. So like building reputation, building a kind of status, it's a 30-40 year project. Correct.
Yeah.
So from caste census to institutions to academics, research, books, publishers, conferences. So it's a 30-year project to actually create the whole ecosystem, all the levers. then you can utilize them. So, and after that, correct, see, the left does a lot of crap things, correct, their research is crap, absolute
Yeah,
lies.
yeah,
But those lies are believed by people because they have built those systems over a big period of time, where they have
yes,
created
yes,
legitimate institutions over a long period of time. So even their
yeah,
lies are treated as something kind of a gold, okay, in terms of
yeah,
absolute
yeah,
truth.
yeah, yeah.
So do you think that the reactionary nationalist or native ecosystem is not being built yet, or they don't know how to build it, or it will take some time for it to get built?
देखो, I am hopeful that there are good people in the indie wing, even in power, and I have faith in them. Okay, I'm not saying they are everyone सब बिके हुए हैं, सब मिले. I'm not Kejriwal, सब मिले हुए हैं जी. I'm not going to say that. Okay. So I believe that there is good intention, but they have to now act like they are in power. The problem with the BJP and RSS is sometimes they act like they are still in the 1970s. Okay, जब वो लड़ रहे थे इंदिरा गांधी से. हाँ. So they must act like kings. हाँ. That means that तुमको ब्राह्मण भोजन करवाना पड़ेगा. And Neeraj Atriji a few days ago, I know that as far as you have told me on many occasions that somebody like Neeraj Atriji is fairly, he's impactful in the Sangh, right?
Hmm.
Uh, and BJP people also respect him a lot
No,
because
actually,
he's a,
he has said this in the podcast itself. If you watch his podcast with
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Mr. Saxena, he says it publicly that he talks to them. So it's not I am saying,
yeah,
he's saying
yeah,
it by himself.
yes. So, and we all respect a guy like him, right? So the thing is that, um, what I want to say is that somebody like him, few days ago, we were discussing that tweet as well.
Hmm.
That he said that we need intellectuals.
Hmm.
The BJP and Sangh are completely lacking in that in academic intellectual wing. Or BJP spokespersons can't do, like Shehzad is great. So हमारे I keep forgetting his name. That very highly educated BJP spokesperson, Sudhanshu Trivedi ji. Sudhanshu Trivedi
Trivedi.
is a genius. We all love and respect him, but प्रॉब्लम है कि एक दो आदमी तो कितना कर सकता है, राइट? They can't fight every battle, right? So that is the thing where Sudhanshu Trivedi ji and Shehzad Poonawalla are there. But again, here's the fun thing. This is where academia is important. Sudhanshu Trivedi and Shehzad Poonawalla are official BJP spokesperson. So when they say a truth, they will still be said, अरे आप तो यार मोदी जी के आदमी हो, आप तो संघी हो, ऐसे. An academic can pretend to be neutral. That is very important. This is a weird paradox that we talk about political ideas as academics, but we are supposed to be neutral. मतलब ideal image है कि प्रोफेसर मतलब प्रोफेसर मतलब ये बहुत न्यूट्रल आदमी होगा, बहुत अच्छे आदमी है, हाँ, झूठ नहीं बोलते हैं. That kind of perception we have ideally. वैसे 80% professors won't fall in that category, but anyway, more importantly, what happens is that's why academics are also important, because academics can say things that a BJP spokesperson cannot say. Okay. And that is why the left was able to do what it did. And I think they are slowly understanding. That's why Neeraj Atriji said that वो सिर्फ वो बीजेपी स्पोक्सपर्सन वगैरह से नहीं होगा. You need intellectual wing. You need a group of people who are nurtured, who are secret agents, who work like secret agents. अभी हर कोई ओपनली मोहन भागवत जी के साथ पिक्चर देगा, मोदी जी के साथ पिक्चर देगा, then those are people who are. That's what I was trying to say. You can openly show your allegiance to BJP, and then people will never take you seriously. Or you can stay hidden, and you can tell people your ideas. You can be neutral, apparently neutral, but promote the right ideas. ये main, ये जो that is the main aspect. But you can't run कि मोदी जी के साथ पिक्चर लेना है, मोदी जी के साथ सेल्फी लेना है. If you do that, then you are making your own brand useless essentially.
Okay, let me actually give you a bit nuance here.
Yeah.
The left ideology via institutions, via government legitimacy, via institution legitimacy, okay, via huge amount of funding, was
Yeah.
given legitimacy. The left itself is mainstream, correct? Nobody will give you a gali if you say I am a left-leaning supporter. So left
Yes.
ideology was mainstreamed, okay,
Yes.
via institutions. Now,
Yeah.
when they have come to power, they are trying to do the same equivalency that, okay, today I will say I am a Modi supporter and people will say, okay, very good. So do like correct that nuance understanding of why the left is a mainstream ideology where the right is not. That understanding is not there with the political elite or everybody else that they are doing this, because
Yes.
I can understand this, you can understand this, they are not understanding it. Like there is a correct a gap in terms of how things function. Like reactionary force. Again, I say it's a reactionary force.
Yeah. And so, मैं एक और चीज बोलता हूँ. This is something I've observed among बीजेपी सिर्फ नहीं, मतलब राइट विंग, इंडी विंग वाले सब फेम के पीछे भागते हैं. इट्स अ बिग प्रॉब्लम, आई बिलीव. मतलब यू आर राइट, बिकॉज these people did not get success earlier or they did not get the desired amount of success earlier. अभी सब फेम के पीछे भाग रहे. अरे फेम के पीछे भागने से ना, that's what I say, that academia is very ajib as a space. Okay, academia is not like a influencer economy. In your influencer economy, most popularity means most views, most likes, right? So you can do ajibo-garib things, you can do strange, weird things on YouTube and Facebook and Insta, and you will get popularity, right? But academia एक अजीब जगह है. Academia में तुम जितना वो एक अपना silent brand building करके आओगे ना, that will give you more power. Because it's seen as a more respectable thing. Matlab, it's a lot like, if our army general, there's a difference between an army general and a politician, right? Matlab, एक है, a politician can say, पाकिस्तान में गोली चला देंगे, ये कर देंगे, वो कर देंगे, जो भी है. Army general will not talk like that. आर्मी जनरल का काम अलग है भाई. आर्मी जनरल अब वो मूवी में दिखाते हैं, बट इफ यू मीट एन एक्चुअल आर्मी जनरल, ही डज नॉट टॉक लाइक अ पॉलिटिशियन. सो देयर इज अ डिफरेंस बिटवीन इन्फ्लुएंसर्स एंड एकेडमिक्स एंड ऑल दैट. और ये एकेडमिक्स का भी दोष है. आई हैव सीन मेनी पीपल, एकेडमिक्स एंड इवन पीपल हु आर वेल रेड, एंड समटाइम्स दे crave fame and they say stuff, which is why I said, I don't like those headlines. Academia is jihadi complex. अरे क्या है? हम आसिम मुनीर अलग चीज है. आसिम मुनीर के साथ तुम इंडियन, see there's a reason that Indian generals are respected worldwide and Pakistani generals are not. You can't compare Pakistani and Indian army generals, right? So Pakistani academics and Kanglu academics, you can't compare them to हमारे जो लेफ्टिस्ट एकेडमिक्स है ना, वो भी उनका भी स्टैंडर्ड बहुत बेटर है कांगलू और पाकिस्तानियों से. हाँ, सो यू कांट कंपेयर देम. सो दैट्स द सेम थिंग. इंडिया जो भी हो, आफ्टर ऑल इंडिया इज इंडिया. यू कांट, इवन हियर इवन द लेफ्ट हैज अ हायर स्टैंडर्ड एंड राइट आल्सो हैज अ हायर स्टैंडर्ड. तो एनीवे, सो माय पॉइंट इज दिस.
Go ahead.
No, so that's the point, that it's their fault sometimes, but it's also the culture that सबको फेमस बनना है. It's not how academia works. That is it's a very, like I said, it's a very weird space. तुम करो, तुम पहले ब्रांड बिल्डिंग करो, नेटवर्किंग करो, इंस्टीट्यूशन बनाओ, इंस्टीट्यूशन के अंदर घुसो, अपना ब्रांड बनाओ. Then when you come out and one day say, I have seen this many publications, I have this international conference, this, that, and then people will take you serious. And you can't say suddenly shout out Jai Sri Ram or Bharat Mata ki Jai and expect people to take you seriously. that doesn't work in academia. That will work in politics. That won't work in academia. So the BJP and Sangh immediately first must differentiate between an academic like Shomode and a politician whom they may have promoted in academics. So
Okay,
there is a big
so
difference.
okay, so let me actually summarize today's discussion, and let's look at also
Yeah.
solutions. So I think people who have listened to us till now would understand, correct, that like academic man is saying for ages that take academia very seriously. Okay, but he had not qualified that statement. Okay. So like let's do a discussion and actually give the qualifications. Okay, why
Yeah.
academia is important and how it actually impacts your real life. Okay.
Yes.
So like the concept is there, correct, that if I read a book on history by some person, some professor who has a PhD, so what impact does it make? So we try
Yeah.
to actually give you a perspective how the impact actually works, how the process works, and how actually it's right now impacting you in terms of your livelihood itself, correct? Your ability to feed yourself. Okay. That textbook written by 100 years ago is impacting your ability to actually feed yourself today in terms of what you want to consume. So that's one part of it. That's why we had this discussion, this program itself. And now let's look at the elite part. Okay. So from my understanding, correct, especially the right-wing organizations in India, correct, they are almost exclusively uh, like groundwork organizations. Okay.
Yeah.
So they do not actually interact with the elites in that manner, in
Yeah.
that such. Okay.
Yeah.
Although they are elites, they pretend to be commoners.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is a culture clash which happens. So what do you think in terms of like their lack of understanding of elite culture? Okay, and academia is a elite stronghold. Okay, so
Yes. It will always
same
be.
it will always be because correct, we had mentioned in the documentation in the document that we had shared that even a Dalit or OBC person earning lakhs of rupees in salary, but when he goes to
Yeah.
like get married, some upper caste girl will not marry him, although he earns more
Yeah.
money than
Yeah. Yeah.
than the
That is
Brahmin
a
guy.
reality. Yeah.
Okay, so is these organizations understand that reality, or they are into the illusion taught by Marxists that okay, everybody should be equal?
No, I think that this has its utility. Like the social justice framework that the Sangh follows
Hmm.
has a great utility in something like, when they go to tribal areas, when they work with at the ground level. I appreciate that. I really appreciate it.
Hmm.
Maybe that's why many conversion attempts are not happening. वो सब ठीक है. I agree. I respect that. बट वही है कि तुम अभी पावर में हो, तुमको राजा बनना पड़ेगा, राइट? यू कांट ऑलवेज बी द मिलिटरी. यू नाउ यू आर ऑन द थ्रोन. तुम थे मिलिटरी एक टाइम पे. अभी नाउ दैट यू आर ऑन द थ्रोन यू मस्ट एक्ट लाइक इट. एंड देखो, ये I believe that if somebody like Neeraj Attri is pointing it out, then I think this message is also going to the top levels. I have faith. I am not, like I said, I'm not Kejriwal. सब मिले हुए हैं जी. I will not say. I have faith. I am frustrated, but I have faith. I won't say that कभी नहीं होगा. I believe that that change can happen, and I believe that the intentions are there. Intention है, but like you said, कि a poor man might have great intentions, but if he goes to a parliament, let's say tomorrow, when Chandana Baudi, okay, she's a Dalit woman from BJP who won in West Bengal 2021. So when she got her first salary as a MLA, she got shocked. Okay. And she is doing great work. Matlab, as a politician, she's great. Like in a locality, she's building roads personally. वो pitch लगा के road बना रही है, सब great. But that is the thing. This person, when she goes to the Vidhan Sabha, there Shubhendu Adhikari speaks. She cannot really give a great speech in the Vidhan Sabha because विधानसभा में जो लोग बैठे हैं वो लोग बहुत जनरेशन से बैठे हैं. So that's the whole problem with the Sangh and the BJP, that a lot of the people with good intentions, they never visited a great restaurant or a great university or a great place of power and elitism. So उनके दिमाग में वो है ही नहीं कि कैसे मैं इसको कैप्चर करूं. हाँ, the left by default, since the elites were always leftists for their own benefits, they knew this instinctively. They knew कि ऐसे कैप्चर करना पड़ेगा, कैप्चर करके अपने बेटी को घुसा देंगे इसमें, और अच्छा जो जॉब वॉब जो मिलना है, all benefits, they think like that. Okay, but a lot of these people, the Sanghis, they don't think like that. So that's the other problem. Like, it's I guess it will change. I'm not completely going to be negative about this. I think it will change, but it will take time. It can't happen in 2 years, 3 years. It will take a lot of networking. It will take a lot of also this kind of dialogue that you and I are having. Maybe people are listening. So that kind of thing is absolutely necessary. Or also, I believe the academics themselves must stop running after fame. ये मैं ऐसे नहीं बोल रहा हूँ कि सब साधु बन जाओ, ऐसा नहीं है. बट एकेडमिया का रूल फॉलो करो. मतलब क्या है? इफ सचिन डिसाइड्स टू प्ले लाइक वो गली क्रिकेट इन ईडन, इन लॉर्ड्स, लॉर्ड्स में अगेंस्ट इंग्लैंड, तो गली क्रिकेट रूल्स डोंट वर्क इन इंग्लैंड, इन लॉर्ड्स स्टेडियम, राइट? वहां पे तुमको ब्रिटिश के तरह ही क्रिकेट खेलना है. खेल के तुम सेंचुरी बना के इंडिया को जीताओ, अच्छा है. बट इफ यू डू गली क्रिकेट स्टफ इन द टॉप क्रिकेट फील्ड्स, काम नहीं आएगा. That's the other thing.
Okay, final question to you.
Yeah.
Can Sangh replicate its success of, let's say, Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh?
Yeah.
Can
In academia.
Can Sangh replicate its success, its model of building a Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh, and replicate it in the academia, so that they become the mainstream voice, not the left?
I don't see it happening with the current, and I'm not talking about Mohan Bhagwat ji. I'm talking about जो academics वाले संघी है. I don't see it happening with the current leadership, because I have seen them in action and I did not find them to be cognizant of what is to be done. You need guys like actually Anand Ranganathan, or Neeraj. You need Kaushik Babu. You need people like Swapon Dasgupta, Kaushik Ganguly, Anand Ranganathan, Jesai Deepak. You need these kind of people to kind of inform your strategy. क्योंकि ये लोग ना क्या है, these people are, like I said, if the raw agent who's worked in Pakistan knows how Pakistanis think. So these guys are there, have been there inside Pakistan. So they know how academics think. So it is easier. तुम बाहर से लाओगे, no matter how loyalty and all, loyalty से सब हर जगह काम नहीं होता है. Sometimes domain, like you keep talking, right? Domain expertise लगेगा. You can't expect a non-academic to understand academia ऐसे ही. They can do BMS because BMS essentially is very similar to the kind of work Sangh has done for decades. BMS क्या करता है? BMS is the same as when they work in tribal areas. मतलब यहाँ पे labor है, वहाँ पे tribal है. They are making them more Bharatiya style kind of politics of whatever rights and whatever.
Yeah,
That's
because
good.
BMS was very important for the economies, like economic development of Maharashtra, Gujarat, and other places.
Absolutely, I agree. कि हर जगह यूनियन लाल झंडा लगा कि यूनियन मत करो. You can do a more nicer kind of demands. You can sit with the capitalists. You don't have to kill the capitalist and take over the means of production like the left. I appreciate that. But वो strategy यहाँ नहीं चलेगा. तो यहाँ पे लाइक ऐसे डोमेन एक्सपर्टीज चाहिए. So anyway,
Okay. Hopefully,
yeah,
people are listening and people also understand that where we stand and what we need to do. So when we'll have the next podcast, episode 2, who is asking?
ये सबको नशा हमने नशा करवा दिया. तो
Japani,
होपफुली नेक्स्ट. हाँ, जापानी.
Japani,
इन लोग का प्रॉब्लम, ये बच्चे लोग का आजकल प्रॉब्लम है. यू एंड आई
एक
वोंट
ये
अंडरस्टैंड.
एक ये था का मीडिया बेची देखो ना. Because
Anyway,
there is,
hopefully next week.
yeah,
Yeah,
let's see. Hopefully we will be doing next. Actually, next week I want
yeah.
to travel. Let's see what happens.
हाँ, देखते हैं ना, हो जाएगा
Hmm.
इसमें. नेक्स्ट 2-3 वीक्स में हो जाएगा.
Retro knows what you're talking about. Okay. Jai
Yes,
Shri Ram,
yes.
Vande Mataram.
हम वंदे मातरम.